Now, there was a victory for free speech today. Whatever people may feel about the standing of Parliament, it has been a basic principle for hundreds of years that anything may be said there. Lawyers had tried to prevent the media reporting a question in the House of Commons. They backed down this afternoon, but their attempt points up the way that Britain has now become the destination of choice, not just for theatre or history-hungry tourists, but for corporations and plutocrats with a grievance. Liz McKean reports.
Reporting on matters in Parliament is one of the fundamentals of free speech in this country. But that long and proud history was briefly interrupted this week by a London firm of libel lawyers, Carter Ruck. MPs from all parties are now demanding an investigation.
Clearly has a chilling effect if big corporate and private interests can play the legal game to prevent newspapers and other media outlets from subjecting them to unwelcome media scrutiny.
This is the latest twist in the troubled saga that's followed the illegal tipping of poisonous waste in West Africa 3 years ago. The incident left tens of thousands of people in Ivory Coast seeking medical treatment. Trafigura, the company which generated the chemical waste, is suing Newsnight and the BBC over our reporting of what happened. At the same time, Trafigura's lawyers, Carter Ruck, obtained a secret injunction to prevent the Guardian newspaper revealing the contents of an expert report into the poisoning.
Order. Point of order, Mr. Paul Farrelly.
However, that secret threatened to spill out after the Labour MP Paul Farrelly raised the matter in a written question to Parliament.
The question was printed on the order paper yesterday and relates to the activities of Trafigura, an international oil trader at the centre of a controversy concerning toxic waste dumping in the Ivory Coast.
Today, Mr Farrelly told MPs what happened next.
Yesterday, Mr Speaker, I understand that Carter Ruck quite astonishingly warned the newspaper of legal action if the Guardian reported my question.
MPs lined up to express their outrage at what they saw as an attempt to gag the reporting of Parliament.
This injunction is a new class of injunction, so-called super injunction, in which the press are not even allowed to report the injunction itself, the existence of the case, and that is how Parliament's reporting has been stopped by this.
Today, The Guardian carried a teasing article about the injunction on its front page, leading to hyperactivity in cyberspace. Instead of securing silence, Trafigura and Carter Ruck became the most talked about stories on Twitter, and not just in Britain. By lunchtime, Carter Ruck had agreed to vary the injunction so Paul Farrelly's question could be reported. So, now we can tell you that it concerns the Minton report, commissioned by Trafigura in the weeks after the dumping in Ivory Coast. However, we're still not allowed to tell you what the report says.
Judges, for various reasons, are closing their courts and indeed giving injunctions in secret hearings, and then putting injunctions upon injunctions, so that the fact that the injunction has been given is not even reportable. And I think that's a very worrying trend.
In relation to freedom of speech.
Concern about the use or misuse of British libel laws is not just a matter for the media. This is a campaign meeting ahead of an appeal court hearing tomorrow. There's a worry that scientists are also losing the right to do what they're supposed to do, which is ask questions. These are the Westminster skeptics. They campaign to ensure that public policy is based on the facts and nothing but the facts. They're discussing the case of Simon Singh, who's being sued by the British Chiropractic Association for having the temerity to question in print whether the practice is the cure-all that's claimed. He faces financial ruin.
There's something fundamentally wrong in the way we implement libel law in this country. It means that if I'm a blogger, I can't afford to defend my writing. If I'm a journalist, in nearly every case, you can't afford to defend your writing. And if you can't do that, then what you really have to do is back down, apologise, even if you really believe that what you've written is correct. Worse still, you end up with journalists writing material that's gutted of any real meaning. And even worse than that, you end up with journalists not touching various topics because they just can't afford the risk of being sued for libel.
When it comes to Trafigura, the company has always insisted that the reports into the Ivory Coast dumping have not been correct. They and their lawyers have gone to great lengths to keep the full details of the story out of the public domain. But the international repercussions are making that impossible.